Good morning and welcome along to a session delivered as part of the Excellent Services Week 2025, Designing at the Speed of Trust, Building Services in the AI Age. My name is Ross, and before we get into the session, I just want to thank you all for your attendance. There are colleagues from across organizations in government, the NHS and beyond joining today. And I'm extremely grateful that you've committed your valuable time to be here. So just quickly, why should you listen to me talk about AI and trust today? Well, I spent a lot of time thinking about it, a lot of time considering what that means, AI and trust, what's the difference between trust, ethics, and safety. A lot of time, probably too much time, to the point where my friends and colleagues are quietly concerned. I usually deliver this session with my colleague Eva, and she's very good at reining me in. So, hi, Eva, and let's have some fun today. I come from a technical background and then moved into ICT leadership. I've led on many tech-enabled transformation projects across all sorts of service areas, all sorts of scale sizes. I lead on AI strategy, have studied artificial intelligence, and have a real passion for effective and meaningful change in government and the public sector, which is why I set up GovFutures, to do more of what we are seeing at Government Services Week 2025, to push for more collaboration, especially with emergent technologies, AI being an emergent technology in government, public services as a whole, because if we don't talk more, we're going to make the same mistakes over and over again, where we've seen with other tech trends in the past. And our knowledge sharing can be traditionally British, traditionally a bit siloed. And I also often feel like we are in a very strong place, looking at the job titles in this virtual room today, to lead, to have a real voice, not just in the design of the service, but the implementation and the strategy as a whole when talking about technology in our organizations and how they affect the frontline public services that we deliver. But we can almost be shy about it. So hopefully to talk more, collaborate, and empower within the organizations we work for. So today we're going to talk about how to design AI services that people actually trust, because AI isn't just a technology, it's something that's going to fundamentally reshape our public services. And the question I want to pose to you before we start is, will we get it right? Will we design with purpose, with clear intent, or will we be undoing all of these things, all of the actions we're taking now, 5 years down the line, or even sooner? So why are we here? AI is here, and it's here to stay. The UK government is going all in on AI. Everyone is trying to sell you AI. My inbox is full of vendors promising how their products can revolutionize my services. But does anyone actually know what that means? We're at an interesting moment, a precipice in some ways. AI is potentially at its critical peak or close to its critical peak of its hype cycle, and it's been woven into everything. Government services, decision-making, the NHS, tax policies. But if you're to ask 5 different people what AI actually does in your organization, I'm sure, like me, you get 5 different answers. AI is an absolute buzzword. Like I said, critical peak of the hype cycle. Not all AI, is created equal. AI in the UK public sector has been introduced in 2 ways my opinion, neither of which are particularly helpful. It's been introduced too slowly. There's a hesitation and there's a lot of confusion around it, what it actually is. And I'm not necessarily talking about simple generative AI here. But there's a lack of clarity about what AI should be used for, when it can be used, when it should be used. And that's preventing us from progressing in many cases with AI implementations or AI-enabled systems. Or too recklessly, as a silver bullet solution to all problems. Said, my inbox, probably like yours, is full of people promising the world with AI. If you go to any tech conference, almost every vendor will have some kind of AI as a part of its solution. It is the hook. It's been implemented in some places with very little strategy behind it. The government has told us, use AI. It's made big AI promises. But what is the strategy behind it? We've seen big announcements and promising commitments to trials and research, investments like the NHS AI-driven diagnostics piece, AI-powered fraud detection. The AI regulation bill has just been relaunched. But how does it all fit together? How are we designing AI-powered services that not only work, but that people trust? When AI services are embedded in public services, the public obviously won't have any choice but to use them. And if they are designed badly, it won't just be an inconvenience. It could be a very real problem. We want AI to actually transform services for the better, but that won't happen if we approach it like it's just some mystical force that works. Because it's not magic. It's not a silver bullet. It isn't a quick fix. It's an enabler of transformation, but only if it's deployed with purpose, strategy, and trust. Otherwise, we're just throwing our time, resources, and money at buzzwords and hoping for the best. Right now, AI sits at a bit of a crossroads. How does it look in government and public services? How does it look in the global scene? On the one hand, it's powering incredible advancements like healthcare, automation, decision-making. On the other, it creates huge questions around ethics, bias, accountability, and long-term impact, which we absolutely can't understand at the moment. At the leading edge of development and frontier research, AI is an arms race. There is absolutely no way that regulation and governance can keep up with the pace of development in this space. The EU, US, and China have set out their AI strategies, while we're still in the UK finding a balance between regulation and innovation. And it is a balance. It has to be. It is everywhere. It's in our public services, it's in the NHS, it's in welfare systems. Even the minister for DSIT is using it for policy ideas. I don't know if that's controversial to mention. Everyone is feeling the pressure to do AI. We're told to do AI, but not everyone knows how. Some organizations are making really meaningful AI advancements. They're doing really great things, great projects, great initiatives, while others are throwing AI at problems without a clear strategy. And while all of this is happening, public trust in AI, has anyone really asked? There's numerous consultations out there, but what does the public actually think? People often just see the negative. deepfakes, decision-making gone wrong, generated misinformation. Can we trust it? Doesn't help. The government has made big AI promises, like I said before, but execution at the moment is a bit of a mixed bag. Since the new Labour government came in 2024, we've seen the AI regulation bill, as I mentioned, aiming to bring some kind of structure to AI governance, but still very much a work in progress. Funding and trials for AI diagnostics, but there are questions around patient data security and explainability of what those AI diagnostics and how effective those AI diagnostics are in the NHS. Very promising, but there is caution there. AI in welfare and fraud detection. Some departments are using AI to improve efficiencies, but depending on the training data, and we'll get into that in a bit, but depending on the training data, the risk of AI making unfair decisions is still a concern. The UK, the world, we're all at a pivotal moment. We want to adopt AI, but without clear strategy and public trust, we risk ending up with a fragmented, ineffective deployment. So are we designing AI with clear purpose, governance, and trust? Or are we deploying it in silo without coordination and hoping for the best? The implications for not considering these things as we deploy AI services, as we design AI services, are vast, and they're beyond legal, financial, and reputational. They will affect people's lives. We've already seen it. So how do we ensure that we are designing with trust? First, let's define trust. There are various frameworks that attempt to define trust in AI, coming from academia, industry, and policymakers. Most of the frameworks highlight key themes such as transparency, fairness, accountability, and security. The top left figure is Oxethica's, definition of trust. A basis of legal compliance, saying AI must follow existing regulations. Technical robustness, it must be reliable and secure. And then that it's ethically sound, that it must align with societal values. They are all obviously foundational concepts that should be designed into AI systems and solutions. However, they don't automatically make a service trustworthy. Because for me, AI trust isn't just about compliance. It's about whether people actually trust the services to be fair, to be reliable, and transparent. Trust must be designed into AI services at inception. So while frameworks and guidelines are, of course, important and useful, they don't guarantee that an AI-powered or enabled service will be usable, understandable, or effective. They don't guarantee trust. And just quickly, a plug for that Oxethica resource. Do check it out. All sorts of good content on there around AI and trust, ethics, safety, security. So we've seen how trust can be defined. I don't think it's something that exists in isolation. It should be built on layers. And so what I'd like to propose is a framework, foundations of AI trust. This pyramid represents the true foundation of AI trust. Trust sits at the very top, but it can only exist if the layers beneath it are strong. Before we even talk about trust, the AI must actually work. Sounds very basic to say, but it needs to be technically reliable. It needs to be well tested. The design should be good, and it should be built with resilience in mind. If an AI service is unstable, it's inaccurate, or it breaks under pressure, it doesn't matter how good our transparency is, people won't trust it. If it's unreliable, people will not trust it. We don't just build AI services because we can. Oftentimes, I think people think about AI in isolation when talking about designing systems and services or development. But the same legal requirements, the same regulations that we must comply with and are governed by, with everything else, obviously apply to our design of AI systems, our procurement of AI systems, our development of AI systems too. We need to build within legal and ethical frameworks. If AI doesn't comply with GDPR, AI Act, any sector-specific regulations that you have, it won't just erode trust. It is fundamentally unlawful. Strangely, people forget this. Just looking at it in silo. Security. The public expects us to protect their data. It's not an AI thing, again. It's a fundamental thing. They trust us with their data. If an AI service leaks sensitive information, if it's vulnerable, that trust disappears instantly. Security cannot be an afterthought. It's a core requirement for AI design. And this is where perception meets reality. Even if an AI system is technically sound, robust design, it's legally compliant, ticks all the boxes, and it's secure, if the public doesn't understand it or they don't feel confident in it, they will not trust it. And this is why trust needs more work. Because the public already trusts us. They trust us to do fairly simple things. They trust us to collect bins. They trust us to be able to provision services, to book GP appointments or hospital appointments. Not because they tell them to trust us, but because they've seen clear evidence that these services work. Renew your passport. You can do it online. Seamless service. Most of the time, your passport arrives in the post. No issue. But AI doesn't have an established evidence base yet. So people don't know if they should trust AI decision-making, if they should trust the services that are being deployed, because they haven't seen it working reliably over time. And that's why communication is so important. How we communicate, explain, and demonstrate AI services is just as important as the technology itself. And if we can't clearly show what AI is doing and why it's doing it, how we're making it safe, the trust won't materialize. It's not just about end user perception. It's about proving that the services that we're designing are worthy of trust. And that comes from building secure, compliant, and well-designed systems. So now let's focus on the solution. How do we actually build AI-powered services that people can trust? The key is not to treat trust as an afterthought. It's not something we add in after the AI is deployed. It has to be a consideration and embedded into AI service design from the beginning. So I'd like to propose these 5 actions, a framework that are not just technically sound, but they bridge the gap and they show that link between services being reliable, secure, compliant, and transparent and meaningful at the same time. Before implementing AI, we need to ask, what is the real problem? Solve the right problem, define the service needs. What outcome are we designing to? Deploying AI without clearly defining the problem is how we end up with wasted investment or poor adoption. We waste time and money, or it ultimately doesn't fully fit the needs of what we are trying to deliver or achieve. We need to engage stakeholders. The biggest design failures happen when decisions are made in silos. We'll get into this a little bit more, but there should be collaboration between frontline staff, technical teams, service owners, and especially with emergent technology like AI, senior leadership. How many of you have seen solutions being introduced without consulting the people who will actually use them? The same is true of AI. We might think, oh, here you go, this is an excellent service, but have you gone through the same usual steps that you should do when you design any service? Oftentimes, I'm not sure that's the case because it is shiny, it's new and attractive, and we just want to get it out there. We need to develop and test transparently. If we want people to trust AI, it can't be a black box. And I'm not necessarily talking about the underlying algorithms, but AI systems should be explainable, not just to developers, but to the service users, frontline staff, and decision makers who are putting them out there. That leads us on to governance and accountability, because this is key. Trust is impossible without clear accountability. If AI makes a decision, we need to know who's responsible for it. We need to design this into any AI solutions that we are provisioning or want to provision. We need to design in questions and understand the answers to, is there an appeals process? Can users challenge the AI decisions? Who reviews those challenges? Who reviews errors? How are we monitoring AI performance over time? If these accountability measures, if these mechanisms are not built in, AI will quickly become unreliable, unfair, and potentially legally problematic, especially in cases where we're using AI to assist in decision making. If we get diagnostics wrong, we'll see an example of that in a moment. And then we need to communicate and iterate, because AI services cannot be set and forget. They must evolve. Public needs change. AI systems should be continuously improved alongside them from the real world feedback that our users are giving to them. And this is really where explainability meets long-term trust. Because if people understand how AI works, they know how it potentially can adapt to them, they're far more likely to trust it over time. Like we said, it's a bit of an unknown for everyone at the moment. They know ultimately where it can get to, and that we have a clear and defined plan for it. They are far more likely to engage and trust it. So these actions, this framework, they should be baked into the service design from the start. It won't be perfect. It can't be. But it is about designing services and systems that are accountable, transparent, and adaptable to real world needs. So we talked about what AI trust design looks like and how to do it. But what happens when we get it wrong or we design it without trust? We've seen numerous AI failures already. Biased recruitment tools, faulty decision-making, flawed AI healthcare diagnostics, and the problem isn't always AI itself. This is key. It's the fact that AI is being deployed in a way that lacks fairness, transparency, and accountability. Perhaps it's not even been a consideration. Do we expect it to just work? Again, people are flogging out-of-the-box solutions, designing what they think are excellent fixes. It won't just work. It probably cannot just work. A powerful example is AI in healthcare diagnostics, and I've cited an example there, but there are many, many, many of them if you have a quick Google. Some AI-powered tools were trained to detect cancer in medical scans, but they were mostly trained on white patients. The result, when tested on patients with darker skin tones, the accuracy dropped significantly. Real life impact. The AI wasn't wrong. There was no technical failure. It was wrong because it wasn't designed with the right data oversight or fairness in mind. We need to be really careful with training data, not just with bias, but where historic training data has come from. If AI lacks trust, it will be ignored, challenged, or fail. And AI failures aren't just about bias. Like I said, they're about poor design, lack of governance, and potentially misaligned incentives or objectives. Trust is not just about accuracy. It's about ensuring that AI works for everyone, not just those who fit into its training data. We don't need, and we won't, like I said in the last slide, to design perfect AI systems. But going back to that framework, we must design systems that are transparent, accountable, and they're adaptable. If we don't, AI will not successfully scale in public services. If the training data is limited, it will be a limited system and fundamental. Worse, it could cause harm instead of helping, instead of being transformative. I said at the outset, not all AI is created equal. Some AI services are designed with trust, transparency, and governance at their core, but others are implemented in a hurry, recklessly, without consideration of long-term consequences. Just briefly, I want to touch on reactive design versus trust-based AI design, and I feel like I am hammering home the same thing, but I think it's crucially important that we get these things. Reactive approach. AI is procured before the problem is properly defined. Little or no transparency in how decisions are made. AI systems aren't properly tested with real-world users before launch. And critically, no clear accountability for mistakes or failures. What's the outcome of that? The AI underperforms. People don't trust it. That trust gap grows wider. And we have to spend more time, more money, more resource fixing it, or scrapping it entirely. I'm sure we are going to see numerous examples of this. It's unfortunate, but if we don't design well now, we will see so much time, money, and resource wasted on systems that do not work. The alternative, if we do design with trust, we clearly define the service need, not just because we need AI. We involve stakeholders from IT, policy, service design, frontline teams, leadership, users. We iterate, we talk. The models that we use are explainable, auditable, contestable. They're technically robust. They're compliant. They tick the boxes for our regulatory considerations. They're secure. The data is safe. And there's a clear governance structure. Who owns the AI? Who monitors it? And who is responsible when something goes wrong? The difference between the two approaches isn't just technical. Trust-designed AI doesn't just work better. It is more likely to be adopted successfully because everyone is engaged. The public, service users, and internal teams actually understand, and they believe in it. They believe it because they understand it. They can see it. And if we want AI to be trusted, we can't just deploy it reactively. It can't just be a response to the hype cycle, to a new trend. We need to design AI with intention. So we've spoken a little bit in the trust framework and on the last slide about breaking that silo mentality. There is a critical part for all of these and more stakeholders in the design of good trust-based systems. Our IT teams, technical expertise and implementation capabilities, policymakers, strategic direction, regulatory compliance, service designers, user-centered approach and experience design. They know how things should work. Data scientists developing better models all the time because they have a holistic view of data across organizations and beyond. Frontline staff, the people that are actually doing things. They have practical insights that sometimes we don't consider. They are the ones that will get the feedback from our users, from the citizens that are using the service. Unfortunately, we do still think in silos a lot in public services and government. AI, I'm sure, in many organizations at the moment is being treated as an IT project or policy initiative, but nobody really knows how to implement it. It should be part of a holistic, strategic service transformation. Everyone brings something valuable to the table, so everyone needs to be engaged. You've probably all seen examples of this, but it might go a little bit like this. And it's a little bit silly, but the IT team might roll a chatbot, but the service designers weren't consulted, so it's clunky and people are having problems using it. IT have ticked off their box. They've rolled out AI. Data science team builds an AI model, but no one knows how to integrate it. So you've got a great chatbot over here, technically great, not very well designed, but technically okay. An incredible model over here, but the two things don't align. The policy team announces an AI initiative, but it has no operational backing because they've not spoken to the IT team, to the data scientists, to the data team to see whether it's actually possible. Or procurement goes out, they receive one of these emails in their inbox. They buy an AI-powered solution, but nobody really understands what it does, and they've got no desire to try and understand it themselves. And then the poorer frontline staff, who are oftentimes the one expected to abide by, implement, or use in the daily, take the flak from those who do have to use poorly designed systems and solutions. They get direct citizen feedback, whether good or bad. Result, AI systems that don't talk to each other. They don't fit into real workflows. They don't meet a need. They don't integrate, and they don't actually improve services in a meaningful way. Ultimately, they don't affect meaningful change. Solutions shouldn't be led by one team alone. For me, solutions should be led by the need, the problem, as we've discussed before. It must involve any and all stakeholders who have a part to play in rolling out these projects, solutions, designs, whether that be policy, service design, frontline staff, governance, legal teams from a compliance point of view, your senior leadership, everyone should know what's going on. Obviously not all the time, but everyone should know what's going on. They're all important. AI tools should not be designed or implemented in silo. They should be evaluated, whether there is a need for them and how they connect with existing services. How do they fit into your wider strategic goals, not just looking at their standalone capabilities? There is incredible power in shared data, business intelligence, customer intelligence. If we're designing systems and implementing systems in silo, and that data is not joined up, we're losing that. We're losing that opportunity. Data sharing must obviously be secure and compliant, but it should be strategic. The more connected the data, the more powerful the AI can be. And obviously AI is evolving at a rapid pace. So I just want to talk briefly about future-proofing. The AI models and services we design today might be updated in 2 weeks, 2 days even. How do we ensure that AI-powered services we build now are still relevant, functional, and trustworthy in the future? They should be scalable. They should be able to expand and evolve without major overhauls. It should be a continuous improvement cycle. So AI should adapt based on real-world feedback, not just pre-launch testing. If we design something we think is great, we haven't necessarily tested it across the broader spectrum of citizens, residents, users, and we discover a fundamental flaw, we cannot just be scrapping the whole thing and starting again. We cannot rip it up and start again. So it should be designed with a flexibility and modularity in it that allows updates, even significant ones, without having to start from scratch. This is entirely possible from a technical view. And this applies not just to technology, but also to the policy, the governance, and development, procurement around it. We must embrace the opportunity that AI brings to us, but we cannot throw money, time, resources at solutions without strategy. Good AI governance allows for all of these things to be future-proofed as AI evolves, if we learn, iterate, and improve from it, not just react to it. So it's not just about the technical flexibility. It's about ensuring that AI is strategically deployed, ethically governed, and continuously refined. The AI that we design today must be capable of evolving. Because even if we have done all of those things we've discussed already, even if we've designed a reliable, robust, compliant, secure, and even trustworthy system, that trust can be eroded over time. The AI needs to remain, the system, the service design needs to remain trustworthy and effective and aligned for the duration of its service. Communication. Public trust in AI isn't just about the technology. It's about how we communicate it, its purpose and its limitations. It's how we communicate our governance of it. Because it's not just about whether it works, it's about whether people believe it works. We've already touched upon the fact that we don't have long-term evidence to be able to prove that it works. That contrast between the public understanding that we can get their passport to them, collect their bins, whatever it might be. We cannot do that with AI at the moment. We don't have an evidence base for it. So the public must believe that it works. A huge part of that is about how we talk about it. How do we reassure the people that we want to reassure that it works? I'm really into Severance at the moment, the TV show, Apple TV show Severance with Adam Scott and Britt Lauer. If you watch it, you'll notice how the corporate language within the show shapes perception. So no spoilers, but in the show, there's a workplace, unsettling, very, very corporate workspace. And that culture is kind of disguised through cheerful messaging. We're all in this together. Something clearly isn't actually right. AI communication can fall into the same trap. If we're too vague, overly optimistic, or overly corporate in our AI messaging, people sense that something is being hidden. If what we're saying clearly doesn't match what's happening in front of people, they will not trust it. Simple to say, but let's take an example. If we say this AI will revolutionize public services, it sounds exciting, but also sounds like absolute marketing jargon, just hype. If we explain it and say, this AI will help analyze data for decision making with human oversight, how much better does that sound? We're clearly telling the public what we're doing, what the AI is doing, what our role is, where we are in terms of governing it. Transparent explainability. It's clear and it's realistic. If AI messaging feels disconnected from reality or like it's dodging key concerns, it creates an instant trust barrier. That's why we need to communicate AI's purpose in a way that feels grounded, human, and accountable. We can't be sensationalistic in our tone, in our language. And I mentioned at the top of this deck, phrases like injecting AI into the veins, whiplash adoption, they create fear rather than understanding. I think, what does my gran think when she hears some of this talk? My gran's pretty switched on, but I don't think she'd like that. Maybe we call that the gran test. It's aggressive and it's kind of meaningless. It's not just about technology, it's about how we communicate it, its role, governance, and impact. If AI messaging feels disconnected, corporate, vague, dystopian, people will distrust it, no matter how well it works. So, what will you do to ensure AI is trusted in your services? It's a question I want to leave you with. AI trust isn't just about explainability, functional design. It's about taking accountability for clearly defined outcomes. We must lead AI adoption with clear purpose and robust governance. How we discuss AI is just as important as the technology itself. The future of public service delivery depends on the decisions we make today, on the services we design today. It's an incredibly exciting time to be working in service design, in technology, in data, in government digital, in NHS digital, wherever you are. But it's a critically vital time too. Thank you so much for your attendance, for listening. I hope you found some of this content valuable. I hope you can take it away, dissect it. Absolutely do share it. I'd love to continue the conversation, or if you have any questions, please do reach out. I'll send on the slide deck after this meeting. I have all of your email addresses, I believe. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can email me at r@govfutures.uk. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.